Michael Rowe and Felice Cruz Delgado, who helped put this together with me. The one thing I want to do is first of all, in putting anything together for our districts, I always reach out to our districts. So I do want to thank Mary Walters, Jennifer Shrivers at Marietta Unified, Marcus Woods at Desert Sands, Dave Dabrowski at Harupa, and Charles Fisher, our own, at our alt-ed program for the students that are either have left districts or are incarcerated or just choosing another way to obtain their degree. So thank you very much, our district partners. So I did want to kind of share this quote with you. I won't necessarily read the quote, but I wanted to give you a couple of I realized after talking with Mary and Dave and Marcus and Charles, what I realized is your summer programs are already set. I mean, everyone's, as Mary said, we were planning this back in November on how we can make a difference in our summer because we saw the problems that were happening during the school year. But I do want you to just remember and there's some great ideas from our district partners out there. This one I'm just highlighting Harupa's. Harupa did a short little video to motivate people. One thing Harupa had not done in the past is a K-8 summer school. So they're doing a K-8 summer school at all their schools. And so that was one way of advertising through YouTube. And then the example that Dave talked about when I talked to him was at Del Sol. And there's a click. If you click there, it gives you the opportunities. But I think when you look at Del Sol's opportunities, what you notice is they're fitting this quote that our most advantaged students seem to always get. And so what do we need to do for most disadvantaged students? And I would think Harupa is hitting the nail on the head there and giving them opportunities, not just to build some skills that they missed out on over this past year, but also opportunities to broaden their horizon. So again, I highly recommend taking a look at Harupa's, the 4 questions. And that's how we are doing this versus telling or giving suggestions, mainly just giving you the questions that you're asking your staffs and your planning committees is what are the traditional responses we historically do. And Mary was so honest about her assessment. She said, this is what we historically do. And here's some new stuff that we're doing. So again, we want to look at them. What are the innovative responses that we can be doing and those leveraging points for those innovative responses? And then finally, what is possible out of all that brainstorming? What is really possible for our schools? And then when we look at stakeholder engagement, we then need to start looking at our system. So how can we engage our current practices, the things we're even doing today, let alone what we're planning to do this summer, and help us leverage some acceleration actions that we need to be doing for next year. And then also, what do we want our students to be doing or engaging in to increase or for their acceleration of their learning? And then what practices do we want teachers to be looking at to accelerate student learning? And then the other group, of course, we do not want to leave out is our leadership. And so ultimately with our leadership, we're looking at making sure we're building capacity. We all know we come to those principal roles with a variety of backgrounds. Mine was mostly primary ed at the elementary level. And so I was very good with the reading, writing, and mathematics at the primary level, but I struggled at the intermediate and beyond. So I depended on my district. At that time, it was Palm Springs Unified. I depended on my district to support me as I started looking at assisting my teachers in 3 through 5. And I would argue the same thing. We have some great principals out there that are really good at the intermediate grades in the elementary level, but they struggle at the beginning reading stuff. So how are you supporting those principals in working and making sure that your kids are becoming automatic readers in first grade and kindergarten and first grade? So then when we hit second grade, they really hit the content hard. So how are we building? We all run into this. I think we're all, as James talked about, we're all just trying to get stuff done. I think, Mary, I think talked about the plan, get the plan down. Melissa mentioned there's tons of plans we got to do. So I realize we are reacting to all this money, but how can we also step back and start looking at some of the innovations and really encouraging our principals to look at what do they need to innovate and do and do differently. But I think ultimately, we know that everything has to happen in the classroom. It all has to happen in the classroom. So I really just picked out a few of the Hattie activities that I think we need to be looking at. And of course, the peer-to-peer interaction. How can we increase that so that they were accelerating our opportunities for our kids? And if you look at the peer-to-peer interaction, it's a 0.82. Remember, Hattie says 0.4 is done no matter what we do. Anything above 0.4 is adding to a child, is accelerating their learning. The example I give there is the re-engagement lessons. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll be happy to talk to you more. But really, well, all it is, it's so great because it's students working in small groups, taking a look at a wrong answer and explaining why is it wrong, and then explaining how to approach that problem differently so you get the right answer. So it's students helping students, and this could be as simple as a form of assessment. It could be a regular assessment, but it's actually students helping students almost reteach the confusion to each other, increase the cognitive demand. I put that one in there because the fear that I think we all have is that there will all of a sudden be this huge focus on remediation. And we know remediation doesn't work. So we've got to figure out how we spiral the skills that the students did not get during our distance learning, but also move forward at an accelerated rate. So making sure that, and then the other one, the last one I do not want, and I'm glad Charles was part of Melissa's presentation, because ultimately we want to make sure it's a student-centered climate. And of course, we can't forget culture responsive teaching, or CTR. So we just do not want to forget that. But of course, these are just a couple ideas. I don't know if you're familiar with this tool. I was not. So of course, I'm now going to share this tool with you. It's Visible Learning, as you know. Hopefully you know who Hattie is, but if you don't, he is really the Energizer bunny of looking at meta-analysis. And so he's got a tool there. And if you look closely at that tool, if we can click just click a couple of times, but the first time you're going to notice that it gives you a chance to reduce the effect size. So you can look at the effect size within the range. I would recommend over 0.4. And then the other thing you can do, you can actually make a checkbox. And the neat thing is there's actually a checkbox that says potential acceleration. So again, I would hope everyone would be clicking that box, or that even considerable acceleration. So again, I would hope you'd be clicking. And then finally, what happens is you then all of a sudden get all the influences or the strategies that you can be looking at and researching, figuring out how you're doing. And the two that I select are common ones. We don't want to forget about them: repeat readings, because kids get really good at, certainly with creating videos and doing a variety of things, is an opportunity for lots of repeat readings. And then we don't want to forget about summarizing information. Mike, so I just wanted to give you that as a tool.
I just wanted to mention that Matt Barnett from Beaumont has been putting in those exact strategies in the chat as you're speaking. So before this even came up on the screen. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Melissa, for pointing that out. Yeah, I'm noticing that summarization and the phonics, good, and the repeat reading. So Matt, I just, for now on, every time I speak, I'm going to call you up. And if you could be in my chat, so you could be giving the effect size, that would be fantastic. Because it really is. We got to make sure what we're doing is working. And if we don't have research, are we watching our data to make sure what we're doing is working, and either tweaking what we're doing because it's not working the way we want it to, or actually abandoning and starting something new? I end the presentation with the 4 questions that hopefully that you're all considering as you expand. I'll speak for Michael Rowe in leadership and innovation, and also in my unit, instructional services. If you need any help with any of these conversations, we'll be happy to come out and help you out. On my side, I've got the content experts. On Mike's side, he's got the leadership experts. We'll be happy to help you out in doing that. And we do have our last effect size for collective efficiency is 1.47. So just massive as we get people to work closer and closer together. So thank you very much.